Hey everyone. I've been reading this amazing book by Ryan Holiday called Courage is Calling. Fortune Favors the Brave. If you've not read it, I would highly recommend it. I love this book for a few reasons. One, Ryan Holiday is just a brilliant author. I've heard a lot of his interviews, I've read a lot of his shorter writings, blogs, things like that. But this was the first one of his books that I picked up, and I would say that it is truly inspiring. Um, the other thing that I love about it for myself is I tend to read a lot of books at one time. And this book, most of the chapters are somewhere between 3 to 5 pages long. So I keep it by my nightstand. I often read it right as I go to bed or right when I wake up in the morning. I'll just read a short little chapter out of it, a snippet out of it. And it kind of gives my brain some time to think on it. But I was reading this chapter about halfway through the book a few days ago, and it's called Be the Decider. And I'm going to read it out loud because it truly inspired me. And as I was thinking about my own life, one of the things that has come up, especially in recent weeks with some things going on at work, is I'm realizing as I've been moved into more and more of a leadership position that um, I have to be able to make decisions and I have to be able to make them quickly, even when other people aren't willing to make those same decisions. And so I've been thinking about this, and it was literally like I read this chapter, and the next day I had to make a decision that um, it seemed like and felt like, at least from my point of view, that others were saying we need this decision made. They weren't willing to make it themselves, and so I came up with a plan and proposed my decision. And so this was very inspirational for that. Again, Ryan Holiday, Courage is Calling. Can't recommend it enough. But I want to read the chapter. It says, imprinted in the memory of future Secretary of State Dean Aitken was General George Marshall's mastery of leadership. Diplomats and leaders wanted to debate forever about what to do, about who was at fault, about what to say, about what to have for lunch. Inevitably, Marshall cut through with a command. Gentlemen, don't fight the problem, decide it. Because while fear wants you to spend the day in deliberation, courage knows that won't be possible. The rarest of all gifts from the gods, Atkinson realized, was the ability to decide. To succeed in life, in foreign policy, in a complicated and messy world, a leader must learn how to make decisions with courage and clarity, no equivalent, no vacillation. Marshall had that. So did Truman. It was how they were able to save post war Europe from starvation and bankruptcy, as well as aiding Berlin after it was blockaded by Russia. They were willing to step up and choose. Your job as a president to decide, excuse me, your job as a president is to decide, Atkinson wrote. Mr. Truman decided. In the first 30 days of his presidency alone, Truman had to make the decisions about Soviet interference in Poland, the first meeting of the United Nations, the first shipment of uranium, Soviet entry into the war against Japan. So these are all bullet points. Within a few weeks and months, he also he'd also be deciding whether to drop the atomic bomb, whether to save Europe via the Marshall Plan, whether to implement the doctrine of containment against Soviet aggression, whether to go ahead with the Berlin airlift, and so on and so on. You might think that these were agonizing, difficult decisions, given the stakes and the lack of consensus among the experts. They were. But that was only part of it. Truman and Marshall knew they would be criticized. They knew that each decision was a risk. They knew that the buck stopped with them, that their name would be on the decision. Literally, in the case of Truman, the Truman Doctrine or the Marshall Plan. Yet, they not only decided, but they decided and focused on the scariest thing there is in life, that there is in is that there thing there is in this life following through on your decisions. And there's a little bit more to this, but I think that like I've just been chewing on that, and I think it is so inspirational and it's so important. Is one, you're willing to make the decisions. It's really important that if you want to be a leader, if you want to be an example for someone, if you want to make changes in your life, right? So even if it doesn't impact others through leadership or things like that, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to make the decision. Maybe you want to get fit, you want to get in shape. You have to make the decision to get off the couch. Maybe you want to stop drinking. You have to make the decision to stop drinking. Maybe you want to stop cursing. Maybe you want to stop a bad habit, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. But you have to make that decision. You're the only one that can make that for yourself. And sometimes in business, right, in work, you have to make the decision to quit. Early on in my career, I was in a management role that I was underqualified for. And I was fortunate that my wife had gone back to work, and I had to make the decision to quit though and go to a job that was an entry level job. It was about a 30% pay cut. Uh, I had nothing. Like it just was a huge step back in some ways, but I knew that that was the right decision. So I made the decision to do it. And I've been with this business now for over 10 years. It has been unbelievable. I've had incredible opportunities for it, but it all started with a decision. And so I would, one, highly recommend, if you have not read this book, picking it up. I can't speak highly enough about it. Again, Ryan Holiday, Courage is Calling. Um, love Ryan's work, and what he has to say. Definitely give him a follow on Instagram. He often has like really inspirational things, even LinkedIn. I'll put some links in so that you can check him out. And yeah, I just wanted to leave that with you. Something I've been thinking about. Hopefully, this is valuable to you as well. Take care.